And welcome back to the Combo Couch, everyone. Pasta Jardula here.
And I'm Fiorella.
And Gomez is on the floor. Will not. Come here. Come say hi really quickly. There you go. Look, fam, look at Gomez. He's crazy. Hold on. I'll put the. He's going nuts. He's a camera whore, right? So he knows what's going on.
Oh my God, his head is so big. His head is bigger than you.
Gomez, I gotta go to work. I don't know what he's still looking for the dude. He wants the dude. He wants this guy.
You can't have the dude.
He wants the dude badly. Not having the dude.
He can't have the dude.
All right, dude.
No.
So, fam, how do I look in the new studio that I will not be at in a couple days?
You look very casual, fam. You're muted yourself. I can't hear you. I can't hear you at all. I don't know what you just pressed or what just happened, but I can't hear you. Can you guys hear him? I can't hear him. Maybe unplug your headphones? I don't know. It's weird. I can't hear you. Can you guys hear him? Because I can't hear him. Maybe it's just me. No, yeah, they can't hear you. So, while Pasta figures it out, guys, I will let you know. Yeah, Pasta, you need to figure it out. Maybe come back in. Maybe get out, come back in. So while Pasta figures that out, I had a great birthday weekend. Thank you for the birthday wishes. Celebrated with some friends here in Moscow. It was nice. I got a Lenin statue. I got some Soviet presents. And then I also got some skincare and nice things like that. We went to a restaurant in Moscow, and one of my friends who's been here for 7 years threw a nice little party, and it was fun. And we had a great time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're back. Yay!
On this phone. Is it on this microphone? And when I went to move it away, Gomez just wants the dude. He will not stop. He's like, he wants the dude badly. He thinks it's a squeak toy and can't let him in. But anyways, I was making. Am I too loud or how do I sound? Do I sound good?
You're fine. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Yeah, so this will be just a little short little trip over here. It's going to be the only combo couch I do from this particular room. This will be the studio where Steve will be doing AM Wake Up, and I will be back home with Mom in a couple days. If anybody knows me, fam, they know that I am a good son first. It's the thing I'm most, important to me on my list in life is to be a good son to my mother, who's, been awesome to me. And, she's getting up there in age, and she's, feeling a little bit lonely. And Jesus, Gomez, stop. Get out. And she's feeling a little bit lonely, and I can do my job from anywhere. And, you guys know me. She's my best friend. So I've talked to Steve, and we couldn't afford to keep the studio. Stop. Get out. We couldn't afford to keep the studio going. It was pricey. Things didn't happen in the way we thought they would out here in Vegas and stuff. So I'm going to be going home tomorrow. Will be my last show from here with Steve. And then we're going to do the show remotely. I will not be on AM Wake Up Wednesday day because I'm flying into the red eye, so it'll be tough for me to get back. But I'll just be kicking it from Moms and doing it from Moms in Florida for a little bit until I help out, my family situation over there. My sister just had a baby 2.5 years ago. He's an amazing kid, and my sister's just doing friggin' awesome. It's kind of crazy how the world works, but it's just time for me to go home, to be home with the family, and everything else is secondary to that. That is the driving force behind me making the decision. It has nothing to do with being further away from fam or closer to fam because she's on friggin' Moscow. It's got nothing to do with Steve. Steve He's gonna kick it in Vegas for a little while and check it out. So yeah, that's why I'm here in the studio today. The TV's behind us, but like I said, I'll be making a trip back to Florida. Still planning on going to Cuba at the end of the month, so we'll just keep you informed as things keep kicking, as things moving on. But yeah, um, that's just the move. If anybody's curious to know what was going on with the studio, and yeah, so that's that, fam.
Awesome. Well, now that we've gotten that out of the way, how about we get started, fam?
You ready to start with the show, fam?
Yes, I work tomorrow early as well.
Oh, you do? What's going on with
do.
your schedule?
Well, I work tomorrow and Wednesday, and then I'm off again, and then I work 5 days after that. So
what time slots?
I think it's like 9 p.m. to like that time slot, nighttime for you guys, evening time for you guys.
But on the East Coast, it would be midnight, right? Ugh.
I think so. I think on the East Coast, it's
yeah,
for sure. So yeah, I'll be on that time slot. So I will see you all there. But it's been a good year for me personally, and I think it's been a good year for some people. You did a lot this year too, fam, or this past year.
Yeah.
But the world has really gone through a lot of shit, and we are on the brink of war on multiple fronts. And this is, of course, the United States is leading the charge, fam. Many people were only concerned about this proxy war with Russia, which they've admitted to, which will be the next section we'll talk about. But it's more than that. It's China too. And China is, again, we talked about this on RT earlier. China is a threat on the technological sector, but the US also says that China is a threat on their national security. And this is why they've been shooting down balloons and such, because they think that, China is spying on Americans and committing espionage under the guise of these balloons. That's literally what they say. So what exactly is going on, fam? What are we bracing for here with China?
Well, before we jump into that, I'd just like to say a friend of the show, guy's been watching the show for a while, quite some time, reached out to me. We had a nice conversation about a couple things. But one thing he did mention is he feels that since you've gone to Moscow and I've gone to Vegas, that the show has become a little bit more newsy. And he wishes that we would return a little bit more to how is it like affecting the human element? You know what I'm saying? Like not just getting into the whole, like this person news, that person news. And we might've been tied up a little bit more, but going a little bit harder in the paint for some of our topics because they meant so much to us. We started the Convo Couch, and correct me if I'm wrong, fam. I think, we said that, we had some type of responsibility and some duty to have a grassroots independent news channel because we have nothing but propaganda in our mainstream media. And there's no opportunities maybe for some of our grassroots friends to get some camera time as far as their candidacy and whatnot. And we were inside that kind of circle, but we were also foreign policy buffs. And we also felt that there was an opportunity to really kind of showcase and show what was going on foreign policy around outside of our borders because of our progressive friends. They lacked when it came to foreign policy. They were so entrenched with the social and cultural issues at homes and ways to fix their communities that were so broken. And, despite a lot of them, kind of like leaving us or getting upset with us, we know a lot of people who actually do a lot of the work inside those communities of actually feeding people, of showering people, of, getting people groceries and stuff. Very stuff that can seem on the surface level, as far as fixing their problems because they're not looking deep in what's going on and how they're being manipulated and the strings being pulled. But it is one of those things that we were able to say, hey, let's talk about foreign policy. Foreign policy means a lot. So I would like to approach this particular topic, fam, of what's going on foreign policy wise, but then also address what we're seeing too on Twitter from the people and how they're perceiving a lot of things, because I saw some things from friends I thought conservative friends this weekend, fam, that are normally like, pretty solid. Like, this is ridiculous. Let's take a look at our behavior. But they even still kind of made the quotes, well, if we go to war with China, China better watch out. Like, what? And I'm like,
Of
there's only
course.
two choices, fam. There's only two choices: peace with China or global annihilation, right? I mean, that's it. That's how we have to approach these things, because that's where we're at. This is not like small asymmetrical warfare of sorts. This is like nuclear weapons that could happen, and our own homelands can be invaded if we get this kind of crazy. So I want to kind of point out some of those things, as well as go over the macro of what's actually going on, fam. And I want your opinions about that, because how do we get through to people? Because it's very obvious to me. The Conservative Party, the America First Party, they want a war with China. There's nobody
Yeah.
convincing me. The most anti-war person I know in that party, I'm very lucky to talk to, in Mel K, who understands what's going on. But still, swimming through that sea, seeing what happened over CPAC over the weekend, fam. We don't have a CPAC section in the doc, but man, they're ready, fam. They're ready to go to war with China, and that's something we have to talk about. That's why there was no conservative anti-war voices at the rally this weekend, two weekends ago. Who are they? Where are they? I mentioned Matt Gaetz. I said, you ain't going to pull this money from over here, from Yang, to go spend it on Yang. In other words, you ain't going to end the war with Moscow and start one with Beijing. It ain't happening. Not in my watch. But anyways, the U.S. Secretary says the U.S. is preparing to win. To win, fan. Define what win a war with China over Taiwan looks like. The U.S. Army Secretary Christine Wormuth said this week that the U.S. must prepare to win a future war with China over Taiwan by beefing up its military deployments in the region. What a better way, fam, to actually stoke war, by inflame it, by adding more troops and more personnel there. I personally am not of the view that an amphibious invasion of Taiwan is imminent. Wormuth said at an American Enterprise Institute event, according to the Voice of America. But we obviously have to be prepared to fight and win that war, fam.
So, would you say that they are really prepping for war, or they're just trying to get people to manufacture consent for the war?
A little bit of column A and a little bit of column B. I think there's a part of it where they're like, listen, we got to prepare for war if it happens, because we have to prepare for, prepare for the worst, hope for the best. But to me, it seems like they are still manufacturing consent while saying, hey, we're just doing, because the business of the military is what? To be prepared for any type of war.
Mm-hmm.
So the business part can go, hey, we're not instigating a war with China. We're just prepping for a war with China. God forbid something happens, and we got to be prepared, fam, to win. So it's a little bit of column A and column B, because when you do prep for the war and you prepare for war, you're actually instigating war, right?
Right. Right.
So yeah, go ahead, fam.
No, I think I've said this before, and I think others might agree. I think the war with Russia is also a war with China. I mean, because China is the U.S.'s biggest competitor economically. The U.S. has become so dependent on importing everything, and so China has pretty much become this economic stronghold in terms of the what they produce, but also technology. And the U.S. is using the excuse of China threatening their national security, while the U.S. is, of course, sending weapons to Taiwan. This is the peak hypocrisy here. The U.S. Really talks about China's national security, or our national security being threatened by China, but they're the ones sending weapons to Taiwan, and they're also threatening China with sanctions, because they still insist that China will send weapons to Russia for the Ukraine conflict, and China has denied it over and over again, saying they're not sending weapons to either Ukraine or Russia, that they're remaining neutral and they want peace in the conflict. They want to resolve it. They keep denying that they're going to do any of this, but they say that if they cooperate with Russia in any way, the U.S. will impose sanctions on them. So it seems to me that U.S. is trying to manufacture that China is some sort of threat, like a la weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, just like they've been doing to Russia, in order to manufacture consent for war with China, which is absolutely ridiculously insane at this point, because they're losing a war right now with Russia, and we know it's a war with Russia, and they're losing that war. And on top of that, they want to fight this war with China. And right now, that war is economic, right? We're seeing that. The U.S. will also lose that war because China is not only a powerhouse economically, and it's rising. The people, okay, you can say whatever you want about China, about its politics, how authoritarian you think it is. Put that aside. The people in China have more money. The middle class in China is strong. The Chinese government has lifted people out of poverty. I mean, this is a reality. You don't have to like their government to know that reality. That is the truth. And I know this because we see so many Chinese immigrants and Chinese students coming into the U.S., studying with money, buying property, buying things. And do I think China is a communist country? No, China. I don't believe any full communist country exists, because this is a capitalist-run world. So I don't believe that. But even though their political sector might be communist, their economy is largely dependent on the capitalist system. So China is a powerhouse, and whether people like it or not, that's the reality. And they are really going to be the next big thing in the future, fam.
U.S. approved $619 million missile package for Taiwan's defense against China. That's what Fam was alluding to. The fact is, and we had Dave DeCamp on the show the other day, on the morning show, talking about now with inside the budgets, all this money is actually going to Taiwan to offensively defend themselves, Fam. You know how it is. We got to kill them over there so they can't kill us over here. The United States has added to a list of pending weapon shipments to Taiwan by approving, Fam, $619 million worth of munitions and equipment for the island's American-made fighter jets. And you can see them right there. Unlike the situation when it comes to Ukraine, where they're asking for F-16s, they already exist in Taiwan, Fam. So,
Fam.
Yeah.
Fam, can you imagine if Russia sent, or China sent weapons and fighter jets to Puerto Rico and said, we support your independence? And by the way, Puerto Rico would have a better cause, because if you watch What the F is Happening in Latin America with Terry, they'll explain to you why the people of Puerto Rico, a lot of them, want independence. Not all of them, because some of them have gotten used to being part of the U.S., but they're like, just imagine, it's essentially that. I mean, it's like a 20-mile ferry ride from Taiwan to mainland China, and we're sending weapons. Can you just imagine if Puerto Rico got Russian fighter jets of some sort? Yeah. It's just, we support Puerto Rico's independence. Yeah, let's do that. Oh, well, but Puerto Rico is part of the U.S. Yes, but the Puerto Rican people are actually not part of the United States. Okay, people's votes there don't even count. So it's not even this. It's worse. It's actually, they have more legitimacy.
It's a fugazi one. They want, and they don't even have the rights to travel. They have to apply to travel in between the United States all the time. They don't even have the same rights. It's like a fugazi citizenship. So there's people who want full citizenship. There's people who want sovereignty. It's a complicated situation. # fam, it's complicated.
Yeah, but I mean, it's crazy to me that people aren't this double standard with hypocrisy. We're sending weapons to Taiwan, yet we say we support the one China policy. Clearly, we don't really, Yeah.
I got a video, fam. You ready?
Yes.
Guys, hit the like button, hit the share button. We're here talking a little China news. Fam, we're talking about China.
What steps that the State Department is taking to expedite that delivery of arms to Indo-Pacific partners and allies, especially our allies who are facing threats from the PRC and North Korea?
Madam Chairwoman, thank you for your question. On the specific question about a backlog in arms sales to Taiwan, I can assure you that the U.S. government, certainly the State Department, we're committed to meeting our obligations under the Taiwan Relations Act to assist Taiwan in maintaining a sufficient self-defense capability. Just last year, we notified 13 different sales to Taiwan, which is the largest single number of notifications for Taiwan in the last 20 years. I would say, ma'am, there are production and delivery delays worldwide, not just for Taiwan, but for other partners. We're working expeditiously to get through those. But I would also say sometimes I think that the notion that there is a long backleg, some of that can also be misleading, because when we notify the Congress the intent to have a sale, it does take some time for the companies to then negotiate those contracts and implement them. But I can assure you, we're doing everything that we can. The Biden-Harris administration has notified more than $5 billion in foreign military sales to Taiwan, $37 billion since 2010 and $21 billion since 2019.
Fam, they're not even hiding it. They're not even
No.
hiding how much money.
They're gloating.
They gloat about Ukraine. They gloat about it when it comes to Taiwan. They don't give a shit, ladies and gentlemen. They're doing it in your freaking face. And all the while, what are we doing in the States? We're screaming at each other, right? Like, fam, you escaped just in time, because this shit is just getting out of control. They're boasting about it. They're bragging about the potential for World War III, despite all the bases that are surrounding China, despite the fact that we're in the South China Sea. Can you imagine if the Chinese ran an aircraft carrier between Cuba and Florida? No way. They would be shitting their pants. They would freaking be crapping their pants. Fam, this is just ridiculous. Your thoughts? I'm sorry.
It's pretty likely the Russians would do that before the Chinese, because the relationships are becoming stronger between Cuba and Russia. Not that they ever weren't, but I mean, they're increasing. It's kind of crazy. Yeah, I mean, I just don't understand why Americans don't see, like, first of all, nobody's talking about foreign policy. They're all waiting for Marianne Williamson to come save them, right?
Jeez,
and we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about that because it's pertinent to how the U.S. left, the Western left, doesn't care about foreign policy. They care about domestic promises they're never going to happen, because you don't have the right system for it to happen. These people are never just going to give you things. Electoralism doesn't work. All this BS about, people running for president, it's just a complete waste of time. It's a distraction. But yeah, like they just don't care about foreign policy. Like if you just pay any attention at all, you would be like, wait a minute. So we're sending weapons to Taiwan, which is like 20 miles from China's mainland, and we say that they're encroaching on our national security. How is China encroaching on our national security? Are they in Cuba? Are they in Puerto Rico? Are they surrounding, are any sort of territories that we have? No, but yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys, I got one more thing to bring over here to the table really quick. Take a look at this. This is something else that's been going on. As if it wasn't enough, the fact that we talked about that the U.S. is admit to prepping or preparing for a war with China, which is the same as instigating in my mind. I think FAM is in the same arena with me there. To prep is to instigate. You know what I'm saying? What do you gotta, if you're not instigating, then why do you have to prep? It's almost like the gain of function shit, right? Like, oh, we gotta do gain of function because we have to find a cure. Yeah, but you wouldn't have to find a cure if you didn't create the virus, you assholes. And there's all arguments, terrain theory, germ theory. We have to keep that open, our mind open to that. Same thing over there. So then they talk about giving them the $619 million for more of the Patriot-style missiles, which is a defense mechanism to fight down or fire down any impending missiles coming from China. It's just another way of beefing up their military, fam. I saw a whole episode of whatchamacallit on it. The West Wing did a whole episode on that. And then you have this, fam. You got the money, you got the funding, you got the instigating, you got the prepping, you have the China and U.S. flex military might around Taiwan as tension flares between rivals. The Chinese military deploys fighter jets and warships after the U.S. Navy announces reconnaissance planes through the Taiwan Strait. Taipei says the PLA jets have entered air defense identification zone, but haven't crossed the median line. China and the United States have flexed their military might around Taiwan over the past 3 days as tensions between the two rival powers, fam, have flared up. And there's a nice little chair if you want to get your back there. The PLA, excuse me, which is the People's Liberation Army, has sent 68 aircraft and 10 warships close to Taiwan since Monday, according to the island's defense ministry, while the U.S. confirmed its P-8A Poseidon reconnaissance plane had been deployed to fly through the Taiwan Strait. Fam, this is getting crazy right now. Do you have any? And that's it. I'm just going to talk about that. Hand it off to you two as well. As you can see, they are going back and forth now, fam. They are playing essentially war games now, and they're beefing up supplies, military support to Taiwan, and China now has been amping up their stuff. Now it's getting hairy, fam. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think it's fair to say that, that China is doing anything flexing its military might. China is simply responding to the attacks of the US. That's what's happening. I'm not, trying to be like put on my Mao hat here. Like, I'm literally just saying that's exactly what's happening. China isn't antagonizing the US. This is China's, if you believe, as the United States says, that Taiwan is China, then China defending its borders and saying, okay, you need to step back in the most peaceful way possible, is not flexing its military might. It's simply doing what any sovereign country would do. And the US, of course, boasts all the time that they care about sovereign rights and a country's sovereignty, while simultaneously destroying and trampling on the sovereign rights of literally the vast majority of countries in the world, especially in the East and the global South. And all China is doing is literally defending what is stated in this agreement that the United States supposedly agrees with, the one China policy. Taiwan is China. However, on the back end, they're supplying weapons and warships to Taiwan. And notice the name, the People's Liberation Army. Yeah. Guys, like that, it's funny because if you have any sort of socialist entity or even a quasi one calling itself that in the US, it gets completely mocked or belittled. But all over the world, the US really supports the liberation of people all over the world. What about the liberation of their own people? What about the liberation? It's just ridiculous. And again, there hasn't really been a country that's been better off after US intervention. Nobody can really tell me that. Like U.S. intervention, not U.S. like aid in terms of Israel, because Israel is essentially the United States like military might in the Middle East. But like I'm talking about actual intervention. And so all China is doing is really defending itself. So it's not fair to say China is just flexing its muscles. It's just doing what any country would do. And again, if China is forced to go to Taiwan, they're going to say, oh my gosh, the Chinese, look what they're doing to the people of Taiwan. They're trying to make Taiwan Ukraine. But the thing is, China, if anything, is even more dangerous of an adversary than Russia. And Russia and China have cemented the relationship. It is stronger than ever. So you're not only playing with China and Russia, there's Iran as well, an ally to both. And these are all nuclear armed countries. You're not just, this is not like a game here. This isn't just like they're going to invade Latin America, which they always do, and coup everybody. These are powerful countries now with arms. And the United States is really, really ridiculously here, just showing all their cards. And the rest of the world is like, whoa, wait a minute. Even people in the EU right now are saying, wait a minute, we've given so much money to Ukraine. What's going on here? People are starting to question everything now because this is getting out of hand.
Sorry, fam. Nico House is hitting me up live. He's been trying to get me all morning. I was doing the morning show. Now I'm doing the live show. And you're right, fam. Absolutely. It's a question of geography, right? Like, let's just make it simple, kids. Let's make it simple, boys and girls. We're talking about defending democracy in Ukraine right on Russia's borders. What business do we have patrolling or being the police of the world all the way over there? Taiwan, next to China, which we agree is the one China policy. South China Sea. What business do we have having all these bases over there and defending the PLA, the People's Liberation Army, in Taiwan. How about we mind our own fucking business and come back home and repair our own country, which is falling apart and shit's going on, and East Palestine is going to get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger as that dioxins have destroyed the air, as the shit's got in the water, as our trains are still using 1960s, 1970s technology, and we want to sit there and go, yeah, but if we don't do that, then China's going to step in and do whatever. What proof do you have? What proof do you have when
They
both
have no
China
evidence.
and Russia together have less than 15 bases outside their own countries, and we have close to 1,000?
Yeah. It's very clear who's the instigator here. Even if you want to criticize Russia and China for their respective governments, that's great. Don't live there. Like, what? That's why I don't understand like this fervor against, Russia or China, whatever it is, whether you're a liberal or whether you're a conservative and you hate China's Communist Party. Who cares? You don't live in China. What's it to you? Let the people of China decide. Why do you have to go so much to show how much you hate communism? Like, hate communism all you want, but China is not your country. Why do we have to impose our own ideology on everybody else while simultaneously saying we support and value everybody's difference of opinion? We clearly don't. We only say that, of course, and we shouldn't be representing a corrupt government. The American people should actually be patriotic and stand for the American people, not for the corrupt government, the deep state, which is, again, the military and the surveillance state. So that's really what a patriotic American would do, is really stand for the people of the United States.
Ooh, okay. So, absolutely right, fam. That's the best way to be patriotic. And look what I put over there. Pasta, we can't police the China Sea. It's just talk. No actual way for us to do this in reality. China knows that. Yeah, we all know that. And there's a way they can police it in their own way, what they're looking for their own things if they want to. Obviously, they can't really police it to be like just doing it for integrity. And it's not our business anyways. You're absolutely right. Thank you guys for everybody who joined in today. We have 36 premium members over on the Rockfin. Thank you so much, everybody. Very safe. Biolabs, Choir Boy, Whitworth, DB Cooper, all these people who are premium members. Thank you so much. If you guys can afford it, Fred Edwards hanging out. If you can afford the $14.99 a month, please do us a favor. Go over there and sign up. We are still waiting for them to adapt or adopt, whatever way you want to talk about it, a singular membership, meaning you could just be a member to the Convo Couch only. But for $14.99, you get everybody's premium content across the board for that one price, and it does help out the Convo Couch if you are hanging out on the Rumble. Ooh, look at this question. Were you two were you said where, but were you two wrong on Lula and Brazil? Let me answer that question, or you want to go first, ma'am?
No, I'll go first. No, I don't think so. I think a lot of the information that's coming out is coming out from the same people that are lacking the understanding of Brazilian politics and also of Lula, because Lula takes pictures with literally everybody. Oh my God, he took a picture with Joe Biden. Okay. He took a picture with freaking Fidel Castro. He takes a picture with everybody. Do I think we have never said Lula is some sort of like Daniel Ortega or some sort of radical, socialist that's going to come in and pretty much be, the guy to like shake the establishment? We literally said Brazil chose somebody. Lula was good on domestics. The people of Brazil's elections were fair, and Lula's foreign policy left a lot to be desired. And we have a lot of issues with Lula. Actually, I'm supposed to talk with Terry soon because we're watching Lula and we're watching what he's doing. And I don't think he's going to be some sort of radical, but I also think he's going to play ball to a degree. But I also think he is part of a country that supports BRICS, and BRICS is here to stay. Brazil has welcomed the Iranian warships. Brazil has refused to give arms to Ukraine. Brazil has done several things recently that are just like, okay, well, like refusing to refusing to support sanctions on Nicaragua. and denouncing that. If you want to know, I think one of the most knowledgeable people in Brazil when it comes to the intricacies of Brazilian policy is Camila Escalante. She's in Brazil right now, and I want to have her on the show to discuss. Literally, I just want like a one-on-one with Camila fam to literally go over Lula, because she's really fired up about how so many Westerners and Americans like don't understand. And I think this is because it's easier to think that when you just see things here and there. But when you actually know the policies of these countries and you understand how things work on a diplomatic level, then you're a little bit more practical about like how this works in Latin America. It's different in the United States than in Latin America. Latin American countries are not in the same position as we are in the United States. They're in the position of getting cooed. They're in the position of having to walk a really fine line. And if it were up to me or Camilla, personally, everybody would be Daniel Ortega. Everybody would be, a radical. But the reality is that's not the reality in Latin America. And they face a lot of different things. So no, I don't think we are wrong on Lula at all. We never said Lula was, anything like anything radical. We said he was going to play ball, but he was also going to do some things for Brazil. So it's just a matter of watching what he does. And foreign policy wise, he's always been weak on foreign policy. Always.
I'm in a little bit of a different space than Fam. At the end of the day, I don't think we were wrong at all. Just to answer your question right up front, I mean, a little bit differences. Like, obviously, I don't like Lula's positions on vaccines. Never have. But this is something we said out of the gate. He is going to be pro-vaccine. He said in his campaign said he wouldn't mandate it, and I haven't seen any evidence of him actually mandating the COVID-19 vaccine. Is he proud of it? Does he talk about it? Do I wish he would shut the fuck up about vaccines? Absolutely. I don't think he has any right whatsoever to be a guy who's a labor leader sitting there and talking and bragging about vaccines. He can go eat a bag of Richards for that, but that doesn't remove the fact or erase the fact that we feel from what our analysis. And here's the thing. There's people out there, when Fam was talking about the same people who were spouting shit before, they're spouting shit now. They didn't even go to the election. They didn't even observe the election. Matthew Turman, the one we were talking about, who was barking the whole time, I'm like, this guy is looking at our stuff. He's gleaning at our stuff. He's smart enough to know that we're going to be the smartest opposition to his words because we actually know what's going on, and we actually went and observed, and we actually did the homework and spent the money. And thank you, everybody in this chat. Thank you, everybody who helped support us to go do that, because it was so important to do it. Okay, those are the same people who were spouting the same shit. We're spouting it then. What we saw, the election was fair. Are there areas of concern of the election? By far, yes, there is. But to sit there and act like the United States wouldn't take the same election and then fight for reforms right there, they would. If this was the starting point out now, fam, where Brazil is in their elections, if we were in that starting point, we'd be 85% of the way of fixing our elections completely with one area of concern. Okay? These elections were fair, and no matter what, okay, and this is something else that you have to play into your mindset and your ideology when you're talking about elections. Just because there's election fraud in the United States doesn't mean that propaganda doesn't work. In other words, they have to get what's called within striking distance in the United States. Then they can tweak the systems and cheat the systems they want. That's the establishment or those in charge to get the results they want. But they still got to do all the propaganda and get you involved. In other words, there are a lot of people out there that supported Debbie Wasserman Schultz against Tim Canova, regardless of the fact that it was just a mind-blowing difference of opinions. There are a lot of people who support the Alex Padillas and all these candidates that we know will have no shot of winning if there was a fair election, okay? The propaganda still works. And then you just got to get yourself, you know what I'm saying? So no matter what you're talking about, no matter what you're thinking when it comes to elections, even if there is some stuff going on, the information that gets out there from the mainstream media and all these other outlets, it works. It still is there. So regardless if you thought Lula was a bad candidate or not, the people still wanted him. And I can tell you this, from going to Brazil, a lot of people didn't give two shits about the jab. That's us. There are a lot of people out there who didn't care. But there's a lot of people who didn't give a shit. Their number one concern was getting a roof over their head and food to eat. I don't want to talk down the homeless conditions again anywhere, but Sao Paulo, remember, fam, when we were like, hey, can we walk to this place? And we were like, no, you can't walk to this place. And we drove through some of the homeless. It was really, really bad. It was really, really sad. The country seems like it's in civil unrest and social unrest, and that they wanted a change. It is very logical that Lula won, and to think that it wasn't logical is ridiculous. And that's why we have to analyze these things and call balls and strikes. End of story.
So my question is, can the people who said the election was rigged, can they admit they were wrong now? Because clearly the guy proposing that the most never went to Brazil literally is found to be on the board of whatever that
Project Veritas. He's the one who
Veritas.
led. He's the one who led the whole brigade to get rid of your boy, your Project Veritas boy. You know what I'm saying? And here's the thing. This is where I get upset. There's going to be an event this Sunday coming up next Saturday or Sunday. I think it's Saturday, fam. It might be Sunday. I got to check, but it's an election integrity event in Nashville. I am not there. I was not invited. And I think that's kind of BS, but whatever, because I have a different perspective. But that's the problem. People just want to stay in their own echo chambers and believe whatever they want. And I thought that me personally, that I was shut out of a lot of conversations. Bannon never had me on to talk about my perspective, Tucker or whatnot. And I think that's just, it's sad, because we have to call balls and strikes. And this is something I talked to Mark Fincham about the other day. I said, Mark, he goes, I told him, I said, I think it's wrong. If we start crying wolf when we don't have the receipts, it lessens our cause when we do have the receipts and the concerns. Yeah. And that was the biggest problem for me when it came to the elections in Brazil. Yeah. People were spouting shit. They didn't know what the fuck was going on. And here comes a guy, a different perspective. I share your perspective in 2020. You like me then. You put me on stage then. You want me to sing. You could exploit the lefty then. But here comes now. You can't get the voice of somebody who's been there. I mean, who have we seen on any of these TV shows that went to Brazil and actually observed the elections? All of them that were spouting that, none of them. And the Brazilian people were taking the narrative from these people like the Matthew Termans, and they were running with it. They kept changing and moving the goalposts, and I'm like, is this dude watching our shit? At the very end, he had them chanting, source code, source code. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me, this guy. Go ahead, fam.
And we need to move on because of the time, but I just want to say the last thing on this thing, and if the depth of your analysis is Lula is a George Soros candidate without understanding Brazilian politics or anything else that's going on. And this is, again, we had, what's his name? We just had a guest on that said sometimes people get stuck in independent media and they think everything is just, all of this with no intricacies. It's very reductionist. It's the same thing about Russia, really being a part of this and that. It's that sort of analysis is so just superficial, and it really gets the most clicks. If all I have to do is say George Soros every 5 seconds and the elite and the cabal and all these keywords for people to watch my content, and who are the people that do that, okay, fine. But that's not the reality. And again, it's people who've never actually been to these countries, because once you go to these countries, you understand why people vote the way they do, what's their importance. Even the people who supported Bolsonaro, their number one wasn't the vaccine. It was literally Lula's corrupt and he's a criminal. That was their number one reason. And I'm telling you this because we literally spoke to people on the streets. Yeah. Yet the people who spout and say Lula's a George Soros candidate every 5 seconds have never even been to Brazil, have never even gone to Latin America. So it really irritates me when that's the depth of your analysis. And that's all it is. I'm sorry, but I'm going to need a little bit more than that.
And I got to just say too, fam, I haven't let out my complete theories and what I'm thinking about what's going on in Brazil right now. I can sit there and say, I think the elections were fair. I understand what the parents are. And you're absolutely right. I'm glad you mentioned that when we asked, because we have all these cab drivers and all this stuff that we never released, and I really should. saying that Lula was corrupt. That was their main issue. And they never mentioned, oh, he's a vaccine, none of that stuff. In fact, a lot of them were wearing masks when they were saying that shit. So it wasn't like that was the number one issue. We talked to people on the street. That wasn't their number one issue. There was a lot of Bolsonaro people who liked Bolsonaro better than Lula because of the conservative Christian movement. And there was a lot of that there, but there was no economics behind Bolsonaro. And if you want, in fact, a lot of Bolsonaro people said that they didn't think it was right that they politicized the economics of Brazil around Bolsonaro during the COVID because it wasn't his fault. So, I mean, there's that kind of entity as well. But my feelings about Brazil, there's going to be a lot more to come because from what I understand is that the MST is not too crazy with Lula right now. And the MST said something to us that just makes my conspiracy hat kind of go off. But it's the wheels are churning. But the MST said what Bolsonaro is trying to do. And this is something that my conservative friends, everybody there on Rumble, pay attention to this. The MST said that they feel that Bolsonaro, with these labor land disputes, took away land from indigenous people to move them out of the indigenous areas and move them into the cities. So that's what they said to us, the MST. Remember that, fam?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That to me is like, okay, that seems like, and that's the globalism part when fam goes, pick your globalism. He's bringing multinational corporations in to take the land from the indigenous farmers. You pick your form of globalism. That happened under Bolsonaro. So I want to know what the MST is going to do with Lula now moving forward to see if they can get some of that land back. And I'm going to be paying close attention to that because we still have connections to the MST. And we also have a friend that just moved out to Brazil. So, yeah. And fam, if you want to have on Camilla on Wednesday and have that conversation, that's something that's cool. I mean,
I have to talk to her, but I do want to have that conversation with Camilla because she's been all over Brazil, and she has a different perspective that a lot of people here are used to, and she knows a lot about Brazil. So it'd be
and I don't necessarily share that perspective 100% with her. There's some areas where you know what I'm saying, I'm a little bit stubborn. I believe the global agenda has to come into play. However, from what I've experienced, a lot of these leaders in Latin America have to play some form of ball with the West. Otherwise, they can't get anything done. So that's why I'm not quick to judge them. And from what I've seen from Lula out of the gate, no matter what, and like I said, I wish he would shut the F up when it comes to vaccines. He's trying to get the most vulnerable and the poorest of poor fucking food.
Yeah, and on the vaccine thing, he wasn't talking about COVID vaccines being required for children. It was vaccines in general. He did praise vaccines in general. I know, but I'm just saying there were people who were framing it like he was requiring COVID vaccines for children, and that narrative was being shared even though it wasn't accurate. And Wyatt was talking about it, and I was talking about it. People just literally took the translation and made it about COVID when it was not about COVID, even though he had said, and you asked him directly, the party, that he supports vaccines, he does not support mandates. So there's a lot that has been pushed that's actually not accurate by the same people that never, that had this narrative to begin with. And we have to move on because, fam, it's been 55 minutes. And
well, then be quiet already. Let me put the next thing up, fam. Damn.
Oh, okay, fam.
Jeez. We love you, Milla. Thank you. Come on in sometime soon. I want to hear that conversation. Watch, fam. Samantha Power, your favorite NGO queen, let's slip. The U.S. is at war with Russia, but Ukrainians doing the fighting. You just want to go right to the video, fam?
Yeah, let's just do that.
Let's just go right to the video.
What is it?
We know this,
Ukraine
guys.
Are values and interests so core?
Yeah.
I mean, imagine just wanting your freedom and your independence. I mean, this country is predicated on exactly those two values. Imagine the counterfactual, where we walk away or we didn't show up in the first place. And what that would mean when a dictator who has shut down civil society, shut down independent media, shut down dissenting voices in his own country, then can just turn his sights on a neighbor and with impunity take over that country. I mean, what would that mean for our allies in Europe? What would that mean for our own security over time? So I think, Americans understand bullies and the importance of standing up to bullies. At the same time, again, we're very alert to the risks, given that Russia is a nuclear armed power, as you rightly say. But that is, again, how we are in the position that we are in now, building a coalition of countries coming together, making sure that this isn't just the United States and Russia, that this, in fact, is Ukrainians on the front lines, Ukrainians doing the fighting, and a coalition of 50 countries rallying behind them, and including actually today, more than 140 countries at the UN signaling still a year into the war their support for Ukraine's self-defense. What is
making sure, fam, it's just not United States and Russia. Oh, but other countries as well as the Ukrainians fighting on the front line. Let's get to that really quickly. Whitewash that comment. Plus all these other countries. Fam, the United States understands bullies. You know why? Because we are one.
Yeah. She talked about a dictator shutting down independent media. Okay, first of all, if anybody's talking about shutting down independent media, it's the United States that's done that. Literally, we're censored at every turn. We get completely, taken off social media. YouTube, we get demonetized. Don't tell me you're not shutting down independent media. Don't tell me that you don't own all the money and all the power and all the channels and all of this access to so many millions of people's heads. And literally, they shut down RT at every freaking level that they could. Both the United States and the EU have placed sanctions on RT and have made it impossible for them to broadcast. And you can't even see our tweets were completely shadow banned. We're labeled Russia state affiliated media. That's, and like us independently, and then RT, oppositional media, right? So then you have Samantha Power saying a dictator that shuts down. Of course, Putin is going to fight back against your propaganda. Duh, you literally have literally shut off an alternative narrative for the U.S., but yet you want him to allow this. It's not like you can't watch CNN here by through some VPN or whatever. It's like she's talking about the freaking Alex Navalny bullshit, the freaking U.S. funded Medusa media that labels itself independent but isn't. It's U.S. funded. It is Western funded media that is literally taken with the same view and the same bullet points as the State Department and calls itself independent media. This is precisely why I see there's a complete difference between fighting propaganda, actual propaganda, when you can't even, your narrative, your point of view, the Eastern narrative, whether it be from China, from Russia, from Iran, it never gets to the West because it is vilified. It is told that it's wrong. It is just so many things happen. Yet they complain when they're like, okay, well, you're funding all these NGOs and all these independent media that really isn't media. It's literally U.S. propaganda used to create a coup. They have said it 1,000 times. They want Vladimir Putin out. They literally want to take Vladimir Putin out of power. That's what they want. And they want to do it through pushing a coup like they did in the Maidan in 2014. That's what they want. That's what they want to do to Russia. They want to break it up. So what would I do if I was a leader? Yeah, you bet your ass I would be like, excuse me, you're U.S. state funded. Just like Nicaragua did to the coup plotters who were trying to take over the government. They said, you're going to go to jail. You're trying to coup a legitimately elected government. What are you doing? By U.S. standards, those people that they're now praising, that Anthony Blinken is taking selfies with from Nicaragua, would literally be far worse than the January 6th supposed coup plotters that they are still in jail. That's the hypocrisy. They're going after these January 6th people who were there and didn't do anything by comparison, yet they're praising Nicaragua's coup plotters who were responsible for trying to instigate a coup similar to the one in 2018 that killed so many people. And Nicaragua will never allow that. Well, Russia doesn't want that. So they're literally trying to avoid in response to what the U.S. did. So again, this is just, it's ridiculous. It's infuriating, which is why I get this way, because it's we stand up to bullies. How do people buy this shit? How do you sit there and listen to her and not think she's some sort of psychopath for what she's saying? I just don't understand.
No, it's I'm there with you, Fee, too. I keep saying, how do people not buy this shit? Because most people, unfortunately, in the United States, I think when it comes to those who are just a little bit paying attention, that's a lot of people, right? They just get fed the propaganda and they get their confirmation bias. So it's like, they get, if somebody tells them what they want to, what they're thinking, and that's what they want, then they can get that, take it, be comfortable with their decision or their thought process, and move on. That is why. And that's the problem. And it just drives me crazy with these leaders continuing to point out these lies. They just repeat the lie over and over again until it becomes the truth. This is why you shouldn't be watching mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC, Fox, none of them, unless you were there to deconstruct their narrative.
Right.
Unless you were there to say, hey, thank you for telling me what you assholes are thinking. Thank you for telling me how you guys feel. Because these politicians, they just lie over and over and over again. And of course, now you have the lead villain, fam, from Under the Sea.
The European Commission. Yeah.
Under the Sea. No, Ursula.
Ursula von der Leyen.
Yeah, from freaking the Little Mermaid. She has to chime in. And once again, everything she's saying for Putin, she deserves. Take a listen, guys. Do us a favor. Share us out. We're on Rumble. We're on Rockfin. On Rockfin, we almost have 40 premium members. That would be awesome. On Rumble, we got 65. Is Vicky Lynn in the house? I don't even see her there. Guys, share that link, fam. I sent it to your tweeters. And we have over 300 people on YouTube's where we're still demonetized and we still can't make a dime. They tried to take away our livelihood. They tried to take away your voice when we get to represent you.
Putin.
You send us where? But Putin.
Ladies and gentlemen, Russia's invasion has brought unspeakable suffering to Ukraine. Almost 1 year ago, the world discovered the horrors of Bucha. I was there myself and I have witnessed the atrocities committed by Russian forces. There's increasing evidence of direct attacks against civilians, as well as on energy and other infrastructure, torture, ill treatment, sexual violence, and summary executions are known to have been committed by Russian forces. Not even children are being spared. Russia must be held accountable for these horrific crimes, and Putin must be held accountable. We must do everything in our power to bring the perpetrators to justice. The European Union is supportive of the role of the International Criminal Court. We also believe that there needs to be a dedicated tribunal to prosecute Russia's crime of aggression. And I'm proud that at this conference, as a first step, you will sign the agreement to set up the International Center for Prosecution of the Crime of Aggression in The Hague. The European Union will continue to work with our partners to ensure that Russia pays. We stand united for justice for Ukraine.
Slava Ukraini, fam. I mean, there needs to be a criminal court created for you, Ursula, for you. You're the one who has lied to the people, caused death and destruction, cut your own people off from energy. You need to go to The Hague. So as much as you sit there and you tell these lies as if it's just Russia's done these crazy atrocities, you, Ursula, are one of the ones should be held responsible 1,000% from what has happened over there, fam. No?
Yeah, I mean, even if half the things that she said about Russia were true, which they're not, and the Bucha massacre was literally debunked, and they're still using it as if they repeat the lies until enough time so you can believe them. But like this, even if that were true, even if half of the things were true, that doesn't account for what Europe, the United States, and NATO have done to literally the rest of the world, the atrocities committed, the human rights abuses that they are never held accountable for. And you're absolutely right. This is why people in Germany have been protesting sanctions on Russia and have been protesting in the streets, and all over the EU protests are coming up because they can't survive like this. The German economy has been purposely tanked because the United States wanted it so. Because Victoria Nuland said, fuck the EU, and rightfully, literally, this is what they wanted, right? Told everybody this. They said, F the EU, we want, they wanted to sell their expensive gas to Europe. And that's exactly what's happening. And these people like Ursula von der Leyen and all of the people in the EU have thrown, all the governments in the EU, all the officials have thrown the working class and the people of these countries under the bus for the sake of political posturing. And that's what they've done. And the consequences are just beginning to be felt because this is only 1 year into the conflict. And Russia's sanctions are not working the way they want them to. Russia is fine. And guess what? There's this corridor that has opened up between Russia and India via Iran. And it's basically the new Silk Road corridor is what they're calling it. And it's going to be tremendous for the economies of the East. Meanwhile, you have Europe in this mode of self-destruction. For what? For the United States? You think the United States is going to have your back? Have you seen what the United States does to its allies? Because you might want to go back in history and figure that one out there. Like, this is absolutely, it's just ludicrous. Rightfully, the people are protesting in the EU. These people deserve to be at The Hague, as Pasta says. These people deserve to have some sort of tribunal. But that's never going to happen. That's never going to happen because unless you, the people, literally force that. Because right now, these global, just complete and total, just war criminals are ruling the countries, and they're trying to kill everybody. It really is that simple.
Yep. And then the last part for this section, what do you got over here?
This is right on board with what we're talking here. So the attacks on the Nord Stream pipelines will not be investigated in The Hague. This was said by the EU Commission. Okay, Ursula von der Leyen. She's the head of the EU Commission, and they refuse to investigate that. They won't. So even though there's countless evidence, there's all of these, there's this admission, there's Seymour Hersh just wrote this saying, the Russians have said that they have evidence. It doesn't matter. They're not going to investigate it. The pipelines blew themselves. Russia blew their own pipelines. Like the United States wasn't involved. This is, you want to talk about The Hague? That should be investigated. But it's not going to, because the narrative that they push is that Russia is this evil, evil country full of evil people, and that Putin is Hitler, and that he just wants to take over. But literally projection, because it's the NATO collective led by the US that wants to take over. That's really what it is.
Yeah. Fam, that was great. Good stuff over there. And you're right. It's kind of amazing seeing Jose Vega and all those other guys kind of address it with some of our politicians just trying to sidestep it because, if I was one of those politicians, I'm like, guys, Seymour Hersh is nutso or whatever. I would just immediately smear them right up. But it's like they get caught with a deer in headlights because they know, what I'm saying? It's just really hard to hide the fact that we blew up that pipeline. You know what I'm saying? And that's a big thing. And once again, our government should have to answer for it, but they're not. And but they're going to continue the lies, the Ursulas and them. But fam, while we're talking about this, this section about what's going on in Ukraine as far as Ursula, what she's saying, Samantha Power, all their bullshit, and we'll get more into Bakhmut. Let's just take a quick pivot for a second and talk about one of the biggest atrocities that's still going on. That Donald Trump didn't do anything to help the situation. In fact, he inflamed it by, we took the oil, we took their stuff, and we've been raping Syria for God knows how long. I mean, we were years ago saying, why are we even in Syria? Why the fuck are we in Syria? Ask yourself, why are we in Syria? It looked like we were going to start having a movement where the white helmets were eventually out, but now they're back in. Well, fam, everybody's favorite general, Mark Milley showed up in Syria. So let's just jump right into it and take a look. And as he reaffirms why we are there.
Military commander on an unannounced visit. This photo shows the top-ranking U.S. military commander on an unannounced visit to northeast Syria over the weekend. Army General Mark Milley, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, arrived in the dusty, embattled region where the U.S. has a force of about 900 service members deployed to monitor and counter remaining Islamic State militants. This little-known American mission in Syria is meant to keep a lid on any potential resurgence of ISIS as the U.S. tries to grapple with threats from Russia and China. These pictures were snapped by Reuters Pentagon correspondent Phil Stewart, who accompanied General Milley into Syria.
General Milley is of the mindset that U.S. troops in Syria are helping ensure that Islamic State won't, come back.
I'm sorry, fam, but I have to stop for 1 fucking second right there. I mean, just the fact is, like, once again, what is our business? We're there helping, right, making sure that Islamists don't come back when we're the ones funding it.
Yeah.
We're there to steal their resources. We're there to be the bitch of Israel because Israel wants to make sure that they don't have any a friendly, excuse me, not let's say a friendly, but an adversary neighbor in the Assad Libya Syrian government. Sorry, that's a different coup. That's a different place of disaster. That we're there because of those interests, and we just sit there. I mean, the white helmets are back in. I mean, I have to stop this. It's like sickening, fam. It's sick. It's death and destruction.
In an hour, we've already named Ukraine that we have no business in, and we're there. Taiwan that we have no business in, and we're there. Russia and China, and now they blame Russia and China for what is going on in Syria. When we instigated this, we created and radicalized these jihadist type of terrorists. And the Assad government, we tried to get rid of, and we couldn't. So now we're inflaming once again, trying to bring back the white helmets after Syria has been waging this war with sanctions that the U.S. has placed on them. And, of course, just dealt with a plethora of earthquakes. That is the way the U.S. shows humanitarian aid, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. That is the only way. U.S., come on. If we cared about humanitarian aid, we wouldn't have Yemen. We wouldn't have that happening. We wouldn't have had that. We wouldn't have destroyed Afghanistan the way we left it. So there is no humanitarian aid. There's no, overseeing to stop ISIS. That's been the excuse for the last 20 years. That's how much longer are you going to buy that same excuse? It's the same exact excuse. We got to get them over there so we don't get them over here. It's the same exact excuse used in Ukraine. Is the same exact excuse used in Taiwan, the same exact excuse used in the Middle East, all over. That's the excuse. How do people continue buying this? How, it's like, it may be the country that you come from, but in reality, it's not representing you. So you don't have to go along with it.
Fam, I put up this comment by John B. Fam, we're going to take the oil. I said, take the oil. And Iraq, I told him, so stupid. I said, take the oil. They didn't take the oil. How much money they left behind. Well, that's the thing that just drives me crazy about the America First freaking crowd is the fact that you can say, oh, well, we're financially making money off this now. We're getting some compensation. We had to do all this stuff. We went there to liberate their people. It didn't work out. They rejected it, but we should be compensated back. Same mentality that freaking what's her girl Neera Tanda said about Libya, as if it's just a free-for-all. Since we've operated in these countries trying to be the freedom fighters of democracy when we were simply invaders, now it's okay to take the oil, and everybody's cool with that. And that was the whole thing. 4 years of the presidency, why the hell we were in Syria. In fact, he got duped to bomb the friggin' place on another fake, fraudulent, false flag chemical attack by Assad. And fam, you're an Assad toady. Let's watch the rest of this. It just drives me crazy because there's still crazy atrocities that are happening, and we've gone backwards in Syria, ladies and gentlemen, since Biden's got in office. We have gone backwards. The white helmets are back in there, and we're going to touch up on the vote, fam, right? We're all about war, ending the wars and stuff like that, but they had a vote, and the vote was to pretty much recognize the white helmets and to condemn the Assad regime. Still, still openly about regime change, and the Congress voted, the House that is, overwhelmingly to approve it. But please, before we get to that shit part, let's watch the rest of this video, guys. Share us out, Combo Couch. We're on Rockfin. We're on Rumble. We're on YouTube. Fee is kicking into Moscow. I am in Vegas. Gomez is going crazy on the floor. Here's the rest of the video. Check it out.
And he is convinced that there are still a very large number of Islamic State militants who are in, kind of hiding right now, aren't able to organize, aren't able to mobilize. A lot of them are being detained in detention camps inside Syria. They're being held in those camps and under lock and key by U.S. partners, the Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces. And, the idea behind the mission is really to kind of, it's an insurance policy to make sure that America doesn't face another Islamic State threat that would require a major mobilization. That, in the minds of Milley and President Joe Biden and others, would be a major distraction from our priorities, which are, addressing, kind of the imminent threat from Russia, which is, manifesting right now in Ukraine with its invasion. And then, the pacing threat is what the Pentagon describes it as, of China, which is, the near peer competitor whose military is growing in capability and becoming increasingly muscular and capable.
U.S. troops have operated in Syria without permission from Damascus since 2015. It is today a remnant of the global war against terrorism that saw massive U.S. invasions and occupations in Iraq and Afghanistan. While those two operations have since ended, top American commanders appear committed to maintaining a small cadre of forces in Syria for now.
The United States is illegally occupying Syria and is stealing their oil.
We're here to carefully protect your dreams.
All right, open your eyes.
Sorry about that, fam. Yeah, I mean, and you please, when you mention, they have these people under arrest, lock and key. They want you to believe they're all terrorists when they're not. They're just people part of the country, and they have them in lock and key along with the Kurdish forces, the Democratic Kurdish forces. That if you didn't hear those buzzwords, they make sure they threw that in there.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And they're doing this. So they're helping them out under lock and key because they don't want them to mobilize and have another uprising. Meaning uprising that they want to continue to steal their resources, and they want to get away with it by making you think that they're just there for security reasons so the place doesn't go crazy and it doesn't turn into a jihadist Islamic state, right? I mean, that's what they're saying.
Yeah.
But it's such crap and bullshit, too. And also then the buzzwords, a small cadre of forces, fam. To let you know, too, as well, ladies and gentlemen, we're doing this without committing a lot of troops here. They're actually working with our allies and stuff. What business do we have being in Syria? How do you not see this as evident as blowback? Since 2015, they've been operating without the permission of the Assad government.
The U.S. is illegally occupying Syria. It's stealing their oil, and it stands by
Their
as
resources,
Israel
too.
bombs Syrians and Damascus constantly. In fact, with U.S. weapons. So by all accounts, the U.S. is also bombing Syria. The U.S. is bombing Palestinians because without the U.S. funding and the U.S. weapons, Israel wouldn't have anything. And that's what's going on. That's the reality. What business do we have in Syria? Well, what business do we have anywhere? Right? It's the natural resources. It's the power. It's the just resource extraction that we want. And that's the business that the country represents. It's not a country that represents us as a people anymore. It's a country that represents the defense industry and these people in power. That's it. That's all the country represents. Is that the country you want to be a part of? Is that the country that represents these values of freedom and justice for all? No, it's not. It's freedom for me and not for thee. And that's really what we're exporting right now.
Yeah. I just wanted to read this again because this was in the video, but it says, once again, General Milley is of the mindset that U.S. troops in Syria are helping ensure that Islamic State won't come back. He is convinced that there are a still very large number of Islamic State militants who are in hiding right now, aren't able to organize and mobilize. A lot of them are being detained in detention camps inside Syria. They're being held in those camps under lock and key by the U.S. partner and the Kurdish-led Syrian democratic forces, fam. And it's just it's disgusting because we are funding the Islamic forces there. They are holding back the people and the citizens of Syria, the Assad alignment, the people who are assigned with their democratically elected leader, Assad. Since 2015, they've been doing this, and they're going to continue to do this. They are stoking the fuels of regime change and all that craziness, and people to turn against other parts of the. I mean, they're the ones causing the chaos. It's the United States. End of story.
Yeah.
End of story.
Yeah. I mean, we've caused the chaos everywhere. Essentially, that's the problem, and not alone, of course, with our allies, but leading the way.
And just remember that war is a racket. All war is a racket, and all wars are bankers' wars. You're going to say this time and time again, guys. They are taking and stealing all the resources. Like, here's the thing that Vanessa Billy said on the show. She goes, Pasta, I think that they can handle the sanctions, right? I think they can be able to get by in Syria. What they can't handle is the fact that the United States is pillaging and taking their resources. They need those resources desperately. That's the thing. And it's just disgusting. Here's what she put up the other day. This is just a couple days ago. I think this is on the weekend, fam. Okay. Let me make it bigger. Name and shame every single Republican and Democratic that voted for maintaining genocidal sanctions and siege against Syria. The Syrian people, 80% of the population. 80% of the population is under the freaking boot of the United States and their funding of all these crazy jihad groups, of funding ISIS, Al-Qaeda, in Idlib, and now heavily funding the White Helmets to come back in. And it says right here, look at this right here. Let me make sure that this is, can you see that, fam? Because I'm going to read some of these really quick. Mm-hmm. Resolved that the House of Representatives mourns the horrific life in Turkey and Syria caused by the earthquakes in February 6, 2023, and expresses deep condolences, fam, to the families of many earthquake victims. Applauds the heroic work of humanitarian aid and rescue workers on the ground to save lives and to provide for the care of victims, including United States Agency for International Development, Urban Search and Rescue Teams, the Armed Forces of the United States, including members of such armed forces stationed in Incirlik Air Force Base in Turkey, and the Syrian Civil Defense, fam, otherwise known as the White Helmets. So in the beginning of this bill that's passed by the House of Representatives, and it was all of them, 15 people didn't vote, 2 people voted against it, and everybody voted for it, including all your squad members, fam, every single one. They were all there voting for it. And then it says, applauds, this is number 4, the response to the earthquake tragedy by the United States government, other governments, and non-governmental organizations, once again alluding to the White Helmets. Applauds the civilians in Turkey and Syria who have selflessly volunteered to assist with the response to the devastating aftermath. And I also like, fam, the way in this bill, the United States kisses its own ass, better than any country will ever kiss its own ass in the history of countries to kiss its own ass. Urges the international community to support heroic disaster response efforts in Turkey and Syria, including those by the Syrian Civil Defense, fam, otherwise known as the White Helmets. They're back in, fam. And so now we have the whole point really quickly. I'm sorry, let me pull this up. Now that we have the home point where they're pointing out the fact that they're going to support their own government efforts, well, we did a great job, United States. Pat itself on the back. We're going to support the Syrian Civil Defense, which is the White Helmets. They're back in, fam. Even Trump made an agreement with Netanyahu to get them out of there safely. And now they're back in. And we've talked about how bad they are. But after the fact that they say they're going to support these groups, here's the cherry on top really quickly. Number 7. After how many years, fam? And I thought they were giving this up, but no, just again, and to make sure that it's official. Number 7, on paper, condemns efforts by the Assad regime to cynically exploit the disaster to evade international pressure and accountability, including by preventing the United Nations from providing assistance through multiple boarding crosses between Turkey and Syria. Fam, they're once again on paper making sure that they know and make it loud and clear that at the end of the day, even during an earthquake, you can read between the lines. The recipe is regime change, fam. Just like it is for Putin in friggin' Russia. The United States wants to go around changing all governments
they
that
want
they don't
Assad
like.
out. They want
Still.
Putin out. They want all these leaders they don't like. And who are the leaders? Why don't they like these leaders? Because these leaders won't allow them to come in and do whatever they want to their countries. Whether you like these leaders or not, they won't allow it. That's like the number one reason why they don't like Putin. Putin does not want the United States to come in and just do whatever it wants with Russia. That's that. If Putin was going to be a lackey for the West, then they would have no problem with it. But because he doesn't want to be a lackey to the West, and the Russians, not just Putin, but the Russians as a whole, are very proud of Russia, and they're not going to allow this to happen. This is why it's such an impediment. Same with China. And same with the people of Syria. They're not withstanding sanctions like this because what? Because Vanessa talks about it all the time. She says, people might have issues with the government, but they respect Assad. They see him as a figure that's standing up to the West, and that the people of Syria stand behind the president of Syria. So what the U.S. is doing is trying to impose its will on the people of Syria, on the people of China, on the people of Russia, and trying to use other elements of these countries, to turn them against their own governments, like they've done throughout Latin America, throughout the global South in general, Africa. And again, this is why you're seeing a resurgence that says, no, we don't want that anymore. We need you out. We need you to stop.
Here's the fun part of the show, fam. There are 2 House members who voted against this bill. Roll call. This is House Resolution 132, fam. Who are the 2 that voted against this bill? 414 voted yes, and 2 voted nay, and 17 did not vote. Who are the 2 that voted no? They're Republicans. Boom, boom. Fam, do you have a guess? Stop looking it up. You're going to look it up.
I'm not
right
looking
now.
it up.
Who are?
No, I'm not.
All right, what's his name? You got one of them. What's his name? All right, what's his name? Thomas Massey. Okay.
Yeah, that motherfucker.
Fam, who are the other
Thomas
ones to vote
no? Thomas Massey, either Gates or Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Marjorie Taylor Greene voted no.
Okay.
I mean, Marjorie Taylor Greene outflanking the goddamn squad. Oh, shit, I ain't even got my thing up behind. Fam, come on now. Outflanking the squad, fam. Outflanking the squad. Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yeah, Massey was an easy one, but Greene. Wow.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, ladies and gentlemen. Marjorie Taylor Greene voted no, and the squad voted yes to continue the regime change operation against Assad, to continue to fund the White Helmets, now bring them back in, to continue to fund al-Nusra, al-Qaeda, to make sure there's craziness, to continue to starve out the children of Syria, to continue to make sure that they don't have their own resources in Syria. That is what, and what do I see? I got him, a good friend, Chuck Modi, right? The whole thing with the gun and John Morant. And I said, whoa. This is one of the only 2 guys who voted against the Syrian bill over here. Why aren't we talking about that? Why are we highlighting culture war, identity war bullshit? Why are we still focused on each other? Why hasn't anybody talked about this, fam?
Because we only care about racism and when we can exploit it for votes in domestic senses, but not with what our government does, the most racist shit all over the world. like bombing black and brown people, they don't matter if they're outside our border. That's why I have such a big problem with the liberal ideologies. They just weaponize it for votes and for feel good. I'm such a good, white man or whatever, white ally or whatever the hell you want to call yourself. But it's really empty hypocrisy and empty rhetoric because the squad is intersectionally imperialist. They're intersectional imperialists. I don't give a damn if Ilhan Omar is this immigrant, a black woman, whatever. I don't care if AOC is Latina. If they're going to vote with imperialists and warmongers. On that note, Marjorie Taylor Greene has had far better votes than they have when it comes to foreign policy. And by the way, whatever, she still takes money from the defense industry. But at the very least, her votes are better than AOC's. What is AOC like? They're literally voting to screw the people of Syria, to screw people of color that they constantly talk about against the white supremacists in the Trump Republican Party. I mean, it's just the epitome of hypocrisy here.
Fam, everybody loves that saying, intersectional imperialist. Gomez is down on the floor relaxing. We have 300 people watching on YouTube. We have over 40 people watching on Rockfin. Fam, I'm going to share some of the stuff real quick, if that's cool. I got some super rays. Let's get that going. I'm going to post them right over here. And boom, let's get that going. So we have this one, fam, from Aram. The Combo Couch received a tip. Aram, thank you so much. We do appreciate all the love you give us, and you're right. We're gonna dig deeper into what the Combo Couch does, and we're gonna have those beautiful conversations that we talked about. Anio, fam, Anio says, "Thank you for all you do." Left a Super A contribution on over there, guys. If you can do us a favor, go over to the Rockfin, sign on up for $14.99 a month. If you can't, you can always hit us up on all the links that we have down below that are in the subscriptions. We have everything. Fam, do you get, does your Cash App and all that stuff work over by you?
It works, but I can't access it until I'm back in the States. But I just access it to pay my bills that I have in the States through my bank account in the States. Yeah. You
can always help out with Cash App, $ Pasta Jardula, or my Venmo is @Craig-Jardula. We'll get fam stuff there. Fam, if you want to put me up a Bitcoin address, I can put that up for you. Whatever you want, we'll handle that. But there's always ways to support us. There's always ways to support the show. Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody who watched AM Wake Up this morning. We had a fun show over there. Talked about a lot of great stuff, fam. We laughed at Donald Trump with his speech about what's going on.
Yeah, so we have that coming up. So I want to get to it.
So let me bring up the next subject right over here, fam. We got this over here. Ukraine. Okay, fam. All right. So we know, we've talked about this, that if the Russians take Bakhmut and they've been circling the city, it's all but over then. At that point, you're going to lose a strategic stronghold. And what happens next, fam?
But they're in denial, fam. Basically, Russia is pretty much done. It's pretty much game over. Russia's pretty much encircled the vast majority of Artyomovsk, or Bakhmut, as Ukrainians call it. And Zelensky and the U.S. are just diminishing the importance now. So they shifted and moved the goalpost from, no, it's not going to happen, to, but if it does happen, it's not a big deal. Okay? So Zelensky's office says Ukraine won't surrender besieged city. Media reports claim that the Ukrainian president had overruled advice to withdraw from the de facto surrounded Artyomovsk, or Bakhmut. And I'll read a little bit about it, fam, if you just scroll down. The office of the Ukrainian President Zelensky has said that senior military commanders have agreed to hold onto Artyomovsk, a key Donbass city. So it is a city in the region of Donbass, just so you guys get a picture. And it's also known as Bakhmut. After German media outlets claimed a top general had encouraged a withdrawal. On Monday, Zelensky held a scheduled meeting of senior government officials responsible for military during the conflict with Russia. A statement posted on his website said the president asked the commander-in-chief of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, Valery Zaluzhny, and another senior commander about further action in the Bakhmut direction. They backed the continuation of the defensive operation and the further strengthening of our positions in Bakhmut, the statement said. But this German newspaper had claimed that Zelensky and Zaluzhny were at odds over the best course of action in the embattled city. The general advised the president to pull back troops weeks ago, but the suggestion was rejected, sources in the Ukrainian government told the tabloid. Artyomsk is a part of the 70-kilometer, 43-mile Ukrainian defense line in the Donbass and has seen intense fighting with Russian forces since late January. Both Kiev and Moscow have stated that the opposing side was suffering significant casualties around the city as Russian troops advanced. Last Friday, Yevgeny Prigozhin, the head of the private military firm, the Wagner Group, claimed that the city was de facto completely surrounded and called on Zelensky to order Ukrainian troops to evacuate. Okay, so there is obviously opposing rhetoric. Zelensky saying that no, everything's fine, that they didn't, they didn't want to retreat. Russia is saying they pretty much encircled the entire city and that it's pretty much a done deal. So according to Russia, it's pretty much a done deal. They have encircled this. Now, I've been hearing as of this morning that the city, the troops of Ukraine can't even retreat because they can't even get out. So now it's a situation of surrendering, and Russia has pretty much encircled the totality of the city. And so that's what's happening. And meanwhile, the U.S. defense officials are claiming that this isn't a big deal. And guess who, fam? Guess who's claiming that?
Anthony Blinken. I'm going to guess it's going to be Anthony Blinken or Lloyd Austin. Either one of those two.
Lloyd Austin. Lloyd Austin is one of them. But Pentagon chief downplays the importance of besieged city of Donbass City. The fall of Artyomsk, called Bakhmut by Ukraine, won't mean Russia has changed the tide of the battle, Lloyd Austin believes. So again, they're saying that this isn't going to change, and this is according to Reuters. If you scroll down a little bit, fam, I'm going to read the fourth paragraph. The Pentagon chief said he wouldn't consider it a strategic setback if Ukrainian troops decide to reposition themselves on a new defense lines west of the city. The fall of Artyomsk won't necessarily mean that the Russians have changed the tide of this fight, he said. While acknowledging the possibility of a defeat for Ukraine in Artyomsk, Austin refused to speculate on whether or when it'll happen. And so, again, that's just more about the German tabloid. But according to correspondents on the ground, according to Russian military, they have completely encircled almost entirely. So this should be over in terms of that particular region in a matter of days.
Fam, it was supposed to be, that's it. If they lost this area, it's over, right? And they were saying it was so important that they weren't going to lose this area, that we're going to concentrate all our efforts over there. We will not fall. Now it's falling. It's like, it really wasn't that important. We was just kidding. We was just joshing.
And in other news today, there was a Ukrainian bomb assassination plot was thwarted. Basically, there was this Russian businessman and a neo-Nazi that is tied to Kiev, allegedly wanted to kill this Russian media mogul. So they planted a bomb in the car, and he was the owner of a Russian TV channel, and the FSB, the Russian Federal Security Service, claimed that the attempt was pinned on a Ukrainian-based Russian-born neo-Nazi who also claimed credit for a deadly cross-border raid last week in Bryansk in this region of Russia. And it compared the plan to the assassination of political activist and journalist Daria Dugina, whose car was blown up last August near Moscow. And of course, the Russians allege that the murder was orchestrated by Ukraine's special services. So this FSB agent named Denis Kapustin, leader of the so-called Russian Volunteer Corps, or the RDK, was the plot organizer, and the statement described him as acting under the control of the SBU, the Security Service of Ukraine. So again, they were able to stop this guy, but that was what really was the talk. And this person was also tied to the attack on Bryansk a few weeks ago. So the Ukrainians are amping up this. It seems like they're a little bit desperate. There's been several attacks. This is one of them. There was an attack last weekend that Rachel was covering while she was on air. And there's just been a few of these recent attacks, and Russia has been carefully watching, their borders. But again, nothing has escalated in terms of, them doing anything else beyond focusing on Artyomovsk and that front line over there. So that's the update on that.
Good stuff, fam. Man. And they said that this person was also involved, they think, with the, what's her name? Dugina?
No. They were involved. They were involved in an attack in this area called Bryansk a few weeks ago. But they said that the bomb, the way the bomb attempt was made,
same style, yeah,
similar in the car, in place like that. Yes, the same.
So, fam, it's that time of season. It's the last election happened, so now we have a clear path to the next election in a couple years. And who's going to step up for the progressives? Who's going to step up for the left? The better of two evils, fam. Who's going to take the ball? Well, better than Marianne Williamson, fam.
Right. So first of all, okay, I want to preface this by we talk about foreign policy, and now the very last section, guys, really tune into this because I am just so over these people. I am so done with these people. I am beside myself with these people. We are on the brink of nuclear war. We're on the brink of like World War III. And what is the progressives doing? They're pushing Marianne Williamson for president. They're also saying how great Bernie was. Fam, can you get, I think I don't have the video tweet there, but I have the picture of Bernie and what he said about the conflict. Bernie has the same foreign policy as Biden.
Oh, I got it. I'll get that up. I got that up on my. You're talking about the one that I'm not really involved with that kind of stuff, but I mean, just like, I have that.
What a fucking shame right now. How, where are we right now, right? And listen, we don't cover this shit anymore because we think it's a waste of time. But let me tell you, it's worth covering this now to really just dunk on these people and really show these people haven't budged an inch since 2015. Okay,
what are you talking about? He's budged a lot. Look at that hair, fam. How can you say he hasn't budged? Look
First
at
of all,
it.
I can't take him seriously with that hair, but
he looks like a more distinguished Eminem.
Don't insult Eminem like that, okay? I've listened to Eminem since I was like 11. Don't insult Eminem. Okay?
You're right.
Come on, Marshall Mathers. Come on,
I love Marshall
Mathers.
Mathers. Because I'm just Marshall Mathers. I'm a hell of a guy. I don't want to tell you why. Should we play this video, or do you want to read the tweet?
No. Okay. Let's read his tweet. Let's read his tweet, and then we'll read my tweet after we play the video. So let's go ahead and read his tweet really quick. Okay. Can you beat Joe Biden? This is a question he asked Marianne Williamson. Okay. And this is, of course, they plug in their exclusive interview on Crystal and Kyle or whatever. So let's go ahead and watch the video. And then we're going to watch a few other videos where Marianne says a couple of other things, by the way. So, yes.
Oh, I hope you put the one I want in there because it's just awful.
Give me an answer, one word. Got 3 quick questions. Number 1, can you beat Joe Biden?
Yes.
Number 2, can Joe Biden beat Donald Trump again or Ron DeSantis?
No.
Number 3, can you beat Trump or DeSantis?
Absolutely. Let me in there.
Give me an answer, one word. Got 3 quick questions. Number 1, can you beat Joe Biden?
Yes.
Let's post fantasies, right? Fantasies about Marianne Williamson beating Joe Biden or beating Donald Trump and DeSantis. First of all, she can't. No. Okay. Even if we had a fair election system, she couldn't. And it's for a plethora of reasons. It's because her foreign policy and a lot of her policies are vastly similar to Joe Biden's, guys. Essentially the same. Okay, so this is what I said. I said the leftist independent media contingent doing access journalism. Because, fam, I want to talk about access journalism. Because this is exactly what this is, okay? It's not journalism, and it's definitely not independent. This is just PR for them to make money and to get us focused on this political theater, okay, and these pipe dreams, fam, because we know that we don't have fair elections. So instead of actually focusing on either having fair elections or understanding that we don't have fair elections, that we need to go outside the electoral system, which is where I'm at. Misty and I talk about this all the time. They're literally distracting people with pipe dreams. And so by now, of course, you should know that this is to enrich themselves, right? This is to actually just disempower any sort of real opposition movement. This is the same thing as the squad, right? These people are in the same contingent, the same boat as the squad, as all these people. They're just there to distract any sort of real oppositional movement. They want to be the new establishment just to call themselves progressive. They don't do anything. They don't ask for any real questions. Like, how do you plan to actually do this? Where do you stand on, are you going to have a different foreign policy? Are you going to stop the arming of NATO, the progression of NATO? Are you going to do any of this stuff? She's not going to do any of that. She's going to stand behind the status quo. So you're essentially presenting a similar type of candidate to Joe Biden, even if we had fair elections, which we don't. You're presenting a similar candidate to Joe Biden, and you're acting like you're giving people a different choice. At the state that we're in right now in 2023, when we're on the brink of nuclear war, you want to put somebody that has zero foreign policy knowledge, and the forefront, it's not even a good candidate. Even if you want to pretend that we have fair elections, it's not a good candidate. Number one. Number two, we don't have fair elections. Or number one, we don't have fair elections. Number two, she's not a good candidate. And I know you know that we don't have fair elections. So everybody that's talking about running their favorite person for president, please understand, we don't have fair elections. Oh, but if they present a really good campaign and a good alternative, I'm sorry, that doesn't matter. We don't have fair elections. You need to understand, we don't have fair elections. Your president is selected, not elected.
I'm wondering if the person who asked the questions really believed them when he was asking. We have to ask if they were legit questions. Kyle, what do you think? What do you think, Kyle?
Fam, do not insult Spike.
Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. Fam, my bad.
Come on, man. Don't insult Spike. Of course I know who that is. Come on.
Of course you would
spend.
Somebody in the chat said that, and of course you would defend. You would defend Spike. Fam, we got a tweet up from RBN. What's this all about? Let you dive in. Did you read your tweet, by the way, or no? All right, you read your whole tweet, by the way?
I did read my tweet.
Okay.
Not the whole thing, but you guys get the picture, right? You guys get the picture.
Because RBN has been on the forefront of the whole Marianne Williamson thing. They've been. I don't have to say anything. I'm like, they're like, what do you think about Marianne Williamson? I'm like, what RBN said. Go ahead. Like, really? Like, you know?
Yeah. So this is a video that RBN posted with Jordan Cheriton asking, right, Marianne, because these are the Access journalist guys, right? Marianne will go on these shows to be asked these questions. Somehow Marianne did go on RBN, and we'll watch that video as well. But Jordan Cheriton said, unlike Bernie, will you critique Joe Biden? Marianne Williamson refuses to critique Joe Biden, then repeatedly compliments him. Marianne defends Joe Biden against Jordan's critique. Jordan tries to save Williamson multiple times. I mean, this is Jordan Cheriton we're talking about. We're not even talking about like us or RBN. We're talking about Jordan Cheriton. And she makes him look like a radical. Let's listen to a little bit of this, not all of it. Let's listen to some of it.
My opinion, during Bernie's 2 runs, I think he showed up to a knife fight holding a spoon. God bless him, but he would only go up to a certain line. There were many opportunities that he had to offer specifics on corruption regarding Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden. Honestly, I think he let Joe Biden get away with political murder in terms of his civil rights record, his record in terms of African Americans, mass incarceration. I understand, his attitude was run a positive campaign, no personal attacks, but you have to contrast. You have to sometimes play hardball. And I think whether somebody runs in the primary or as a third party, I mean, for example, Zephyr Teachout, who was a surrogate of Bernie Sanders in 2020, wrote a piece for The Guardian. It was fact-based. It pointed out that Joe Biden had some corruption issues, and Bernie's campaign, coming from Bernie, totally walked it back. If you run against Biden, are you willing to go there? I mean, not personal pot shots, but on his record, because I think the Democratic electorate was a lot of that got hid from them due to media and other resources.
Bernie is a U.S. senator. He is an institutionalist, and I think he had some assumptions, had some trust that if Biden won, we know he wanted to be labor secretary, then was not given that position and so forth. Bernie has done so much for this country and certainly has done so much for the progressive movement. I don't want to be taking out a baseball bat against Bernie here either. We all can look and we can learn.
So we're not going to learn from our mistakes because you're so worried about your civility politics. You're so worried about being mean to your friends that we're not going to critically analyze what went wrong and then correct our mistakes, because that's what you guys are doing when you guys do this. You guys think I'm being mean to Bernie? No, I'm calling out the mistakes. With Jordan, props to this question, because it's a good question, because he brings up the fact that Bernie threw his own staff under the bus. Zephyr Teachout, who called out Biden criticism, threw him under the bus. So that goes back to my original point. If we have people that want to throw people under the bus for calling out Democratic Party corruption, why would we invest in that campaign? Why would we invest in a movement that does that? So that's actually a good point for Jordan there. But why would we do that? And why aren't you having the ability to critically analyze what happened there? You essentially dodged Jordan's question. Like, imagine that. But let's continue.
It's such a, just think about that. A politician can't comment, and you want to run for president, but you can't speak critically, logically, without being offensive. You mean you can't speak about any of your friends that do anything bad, that does anything wrong? Why would we want you as a leader for? Don't you know a lot of the people that in the establishment didn't you meet them when you ran? Didn't you form relationships? So why are we to think she's not going to apply this sort of logic to everybody if we put her, if we try to get her elected? She is so not for this moment. Nick, I cannot stress that enough. Like, she is so not for this moment. She's not even right for 2020 or 16. I think she's more 2008. She is that far behind as far as I'm concerned. So
obviously I can tell you this much. I have said this to many people. If I do this, I'm not doing this just to make a point. I've already made a point. And I can also tell you as a writer, if you want to make a point much easier with a lot less stuff thrown at you, you don't.
It's easier. Even the men, it's easier. We don't want to do movement building. That's hard. That's the hard work. It's easier for me to get my publicity, for me to benefit what I want to accomplish instead of building a movement. But continue the video. I want to hear the rest.
All right, let's just hear a couple more. Let's just hear a little her finish up, and then we'll go back. I want to listen to what she says at the very end.
What's the point?
If I run for president, I can tell you that much. If I run for president, I am really running for president, and that should be the answer to your question.
Well, you said make a point. Are you willing?
What does that mean? You see no evidence. Is that I'm not.
So she doesn't answer the question, right? She doesn't answer the question really. She literally goes in circles. This is what they do. And again, CJ made the great point, basically saying like, look, if you're not going to criticize your friends, then what's the point of electing you? And this is, we shouldn't even be talking about this stuff right now. This is like 2023, guys.
The whole thing is that I don't think she was ever for this moment. That's the only thing I disagree with, is that I don't think even 2008 she could have stood up and done anything. That I just think she's been awful on foreign policy across the board too as well. And there were a few things I did like about Marianne back in the days, but I've forgotten them all because she's just been so awful on so many things. She's been bad on censorship. She's been bad awful on foreign policy. She's been non-existent. She was awful on COVID. There were so many things she was terrible on, and it's just, I don't even know why we're entertaining this freaking idea that Marianne Williamson has anything. The guy who's the kind of the outsider dude from the Republican Party, Vivek Ramaswamy, he can't stop talking about China. I know we have these fringe candidates that have just come out early and gotten some attention simply just because they've announced. She has no legit chance of winning. I don't know. Her coalition is smaller than it was before. There is less people likely to stand behind her. I mean, the Democrats as a whole, when it comes to their grassroots candidates, are terrible. But I mean, she's moving backwards. Fam, this next video I think is the good one, the one I wanted to play. This is where it gets a little bit crazy, right?
Yeah, this is the next one I think I have.
This is it.
Option. So there's no argument to be made that we've gone forward on the healthcare issue. We have gone backwards because now you got progressives, DSA, sheep herding people to the Democratic Party that would never give you Medicare for all.
Well, I think we have gone forward in terms of a mainstream conversation. Listen, I'm not here as Bernie Sanders' PR agent, and you have your views and I have mine.
Yes, you are. You are here as a Bernie Sanders. And if I would have had a chance to respond, I would have. Because my question wasn't even about Bernie. Go back to my question that I asked about 3.5 minutes ago. Where I said, why should we donate to your campaign after the failure of Bernie Sanders? So then after that, instead of answering the question, you then you start going this long spiel talking about what Bernie did great. Why we shouldn't be talking bad about Bernie. I didn't ask you to do PR for Bernie. You did it voluntarily because Bernie is a cult. Bernie is a cult the same way that Trump is a cult. It literally does not matter what Bernie does. I literally gave her a cognizant, articulate breakdown on why I consider Bernie Sanders to be a sellout, and then she doesn't even debunk it. She doesn't even try to debunk. Oh, we got different opinions on this because it's a cult. The same way if you were to factually debunk a religion, they're like, oh, we got our own opinions. Bernie and his movement is a cult.
And I think that's really what this is all about. None of us have a monopoly on truth. I think all of us have pieces of it. Truth is a cult.
True. See, you might as well just say alternative facts. No one has a monopoly on truth. No, there is facts, there's reality, and then there's your feelings, Marianne. Your feelings, the feelings of the Vanguard, the feelings of TYT, the feelings of these people is they want Bernie to be good. They want Bernie to be a fighter of the establishment. They want there to be a progressive route to the presidency in 2024. It's all about feelings. Facts is that Bernie Sanders voted for an increased military budget. He voted to send weapons to Ukraine and increase the military budget. He did not show up to any outside events for Medicare for All. The fact is Bernie Sanders sold you out. There's not an interpretation of this. Is there an interpretation of Bernie's votes on Ukraine? There's no interpretation of this stuff. Man, I really wish I had an hour of Marianne one-on-one. Can you imagine me and Marianne in a 1 hour conversation?
The PR agent, and you have your views and I have mine. And I think that's really what this is all about. None of us have a monopoly on truth. I think all of us have pieces of it. Truth is a kaleidoscope to me. And
I just want to get you in on this. I just want to ask a follow-up to that because I want to make sure I asked the original question because I didn't want you to I wasn't trying to put you on the back heel defending Bernie. So now I'll circle back to the question again, wasting time. She knows she has 20 minutes. Now I got to circle back to the question because she didn't answer. You'll notice there's going to be a theme in this. The question is like, why after that investment, seeing how disappointing these politicians, some of those people you still apologize for, why should we make that?
Wait, before you say some of those you still apologize for, who am I apologizing
Bernie.
for?
You just apologized for Bernie. And don't even let me find the tweets of you apologizing for Biden. Why, as a left movement is going to draft a candidate and a candidate that claims she's going to do a dirty break when she praises Biden all the time? She still thinks that.
Yeah, so again, this woman doesn't answer the goddamn questions.
Never.
She just goes in circles. She does. And this is what Nick said. He said, "It's pathetic how you allow her to bullshit your audience because of civility politics and the pursuit of access journalism. She has zero chance and she's only here to waste working class resources." This is what really gets to me, and this is what I really got some people mad at me, I think, a couple years ago. Was it last year or the year? I think it was probably the year before, 2 years ago or something. When they were doing some sort of like panel with Crystal Ball, Katie Hopper, Marianne Williamson, and some other lady, and they were raising money for progressive candidates.
That was just a couple months ago.
No, that was like 2 years ago. No.
They did it twice. They did it again. right?
Oh well, okay. I'm sure
Yeah.
they did. I wasn't paying attention recently because I'm like
They did
in
it
another
again.
world.
They
But
did it
yeah,
again, like
oh,
with Brianna Joy Gray. It was like 3 months ago.
yeah. So raising money from working people when none of these people, all of these people are wealthy. The ones that were doing it. So you're taking money from poor people to put it in to candidates that are going to lose because they're spouting the same bullshit from 2015 without telling you how they're going to accomplish it in a rigged election system. To me, it's disgusting. It is awful. It is you're stealing money from poor people and giving them false hope. And of course, they're accountable to their own bullshit for believing in you. But still, like it's just doing this. I think because the whole thing is but AOC and all these people, they raise money from working people, and it's great. It's like now you're stealing from them without doing anything for them.
Yeah.
So
and a lot of people go, we lost you, fam. I don't know what happened, fam. We lost her. Her computer went out. But the thing that really also bothers me too, as well, is the fact that people always say, "Oh, really? If we did have fair elections, they get a lot more votes." Yeah, they wouldn't win, but they get a lot more votes. But that means anybody could ring, because the people would just vote outside the establishment alone. And that's something they never want you to see, is that how many people just despise the establishment alone that would vote for a rock or this coffee cup or Marianne Williamson, for that matter. No, I'm sorry, that was rude. She's much better than a rock and a coffee cup, but she's a waste of time candidate. She's awful on. One of my favorite videos is seeing Roger Waters just tear apart. Let's take a look really quickly at Bernie, because we're talking about Bernie this whole thing, because this was Bernie this weekend or a couple days ago about what's going on in Russia. And just listen to the conversation. I'm really not involved in this that much, but
involvement, but I support what.
Should America send F-16s?
It's not an issue that I've been heavily involved in, but I support what the president is doing. I think what Putin did was outrageous, not only for the people of the Ukraine and all the destruction, not only for the thousands and tens of thousands of Russian soldiers who have been dying. We need a world now, if we're going to combat climate change, if we're going to combat future pandemics, we need a world to come together. And Putin has radically disrupted that. And that is a real tragedy. But I think at the end of the day, the United States, NATO cannot sit back and allow Putin's aggression to go unresponded to.
I'm past the point where this really affects me to the point where it used to affect me a while ago. But I'm just like, this guy that was drinking vodka with Russians on his honeymoon is here. I mean, it's just regurgitating the same State Department NATO talking points that Anthony Blinken. It could have been Anthony Blinken. It could have been Samantha Powers. It could have been any of these people saying that. The words Bernie is saying. He has no idea what's going on. That's the reality. I don't even think that he knows what's going on.
I think he knows. I think he's just such bought off and sold down the river and shit like that he actually believes this shit. He's been inside his bubble for so long. I mean,
that's what I mean.
That was such crap. I'm really not involved with this. What do you mean you're not involved with this? You vote for this. You support this. You're in the Senate.
You're a senator.
So you could be involved if you want to be involved. That's a crap. And then at the end, it goes, but I just think we can't sit back. That's another way of saying you don't mind the mass funding of weapons that are going to be used to kill civilians in the Donbass. They're going to be used to make sure that hundreds of thousands of people.
He doesn't even mention. I mean, he's not even going to mention the Donbass. He didn't even mention any of this stuff that was going on. That's the reality, right? It doesn't matter. And the whole thing too, fighting a climate change and the pandemic. It's like the same. Yes. Literally, just WEF talking points. I'm not saying that there is no climate change or that we shouldn't care about our environment, because I do think areas like the Amazon are important, but the agenda that these, of course, environmental, NGOs are exploiting is a whole other thing. It's going to do the opposite to the environment that we want. It's literally an attempt to control everything.
Sam, if we cared about the environment, if we cared about the ozone, if we cared about our skies, the first thing we would do is cut the funding for the military, because that's the biggest polluter out there of what's going on. If we were serious about this shit, we would do it right. There's not even a serious conversation anymore. It's ridiculous at this point. It's just virtue signaling. And that's all Bernie did, was virtue signal. And by the way, you put my boys up here from Due Dissidence. What up, guys? See, no dirty break. Can Vanguard Pod and Brianna Joy Gray clear this up for the audience like they should have done from day one? And with my favorite guy, Jonathan Capehart. Oh my God, fam, that guy is such an asshole.
You're running against a sitting president,
Yes,
which
I am.
is a daunting task.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are a lot of people out there who are thinking, what's she going to do if she's not successful? Will you support the Democratic nominee? Will you support the party if you are not the nominee?
I'm going to do everything possible as a patriotic American to make sure that the neo-fascist authoritarian threat that is very real in our country and is very entrenched at this point within the Republican Party does not win the White House in 2024. That's why I'm running.
You're running against a sitting president.
So she's running to help Joe Biden or the Democratic Party clinch the presidency. She's not running for you. So anybody that is actually pushing Marianne Williamson as a candidate is pushing Joe Biden and the status quo. So you want more of the same that we've been getting. And further, I mean, again, guys, we don't have fair elections. Like, I get so sick of saying this, but like, we don't have fair elections. And even if we did, you're pushing
she sucks as a candidate,
right?
Even if she did, she sucks as a candidate. She's got no freaking appeal to the populist. She's got a little small contingent of some progressives out there. And at the end of the day, they're going to mitigate damage and they're going to make sure that the Republicans don't win the White House. It's not about you fucking changing the system or taking on the system, which is what we wanted, is what you said you were running for. You're there for the OMG factor to make sure that the White House isn't controlled by the authoritarian Republicans. It's controlled by the authoritarian Democrats instead. Fam, American left populism. I support the president's proxy war in Ukraine. American right populism. The president who spent 4 years facilitating deep state agenda, will totally obliterate the deep state. That's by Caitlin Johnson, fam. There she is, number one, with Bernie Sanders, who we just played the video. And there is Donald Trump, who I know you got to laugh at this one, fam. He's going to obliterate the deep state, fam. He's going to obliterate the deep state.
Yeah, I'm sure.
He just spent all these years feeding it, but this time around, fam, he's going to obliterate it. Misty put something else up. What's this?
Right. So I said a tweet, I said, anyone who doesn't understand U.S. American politics, and I'm talking to some Russians, to some people who think, oh, maybe the Republican Party is less imperialistic. No. Needs to understand this. We don't have fair elections, guys. We don't have fair elections. Our president's changed, but our foreign policy stays the same. And our country doesn't have two parties. It's an empire. It's an oligarchy ruled by the national security state apparatus and the military-industrial complex, which is why presidents don't actually change much, and which is why you have Donald Trump on one end, after 4 years of saying he's going to eliminate the deep state, saying he's going to do it again, and then you have liberals all about supporting Ukraine and going at Putin. So Misty says, electoral politics is a waste of time, money, and energy. It doesn't matter who the president is. The presentation and the demographic they pander to may vary slightly, but the overall agenda remains the same. She also had another tweet below that. If you go to it, anyone telling you different is lying and funneling you into a completely corrupted system. You absolutely cannot vote your way out of this, period. Either rise up and fight back or prepare yourself and brace for the inevitable collapse of empire. And that's exactly where I'm at right now, guys. There's really, you can do, and I disagree with you, Pasta. I mean, you do stuff and I understand what you're trying to do. I totally get it. But for me, it's like, we don't have fair elections. These people on the right aren't interested either in reforming it. Most people on the left don't even believe that our elections are tainted. They still think you can vote your way out of this, or worse off than the people on the right. And so then what we have is just these distractions. Every 4 years, people put all their energy into a presidential election that doesn't change the foreign policy. It doesn't change the outcome of your daily lives. It doesn't change anything. And I'm not saying this to be defeatist. I'm saying it because it's the truth. And you can't vote your way out of this. As Misty said, the time for that has gone, because we don't have a system that's actually going to allow somebody good to rise to power. Okay? It's just not going to happen. You have too many agencies, too many people involved that will not allow that to happen. The collapse has to happen in some ways, or the people have to really actually go outside of the system. It's the only way. And so everybody focused on who's going to be president and this and that is really missing the point.
Fam, that's it for today. We had a long show. We didn't have any guests, but we did have a long show. We covered a lot of ground. We'll be back on Wednesday. Fam, let's see what's going on. We'll figure out with the guests. Maybe Camilla can come on. If not, there's people I'd like to talk to, like Mario Gavin Wax, who's been on the morning show recently about a month ago, maybe a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago. He was on our show over a year and change ago. He was the guy from the Young Republicans. I'd like to talk to him a little bit about the CPAC event and talk about China and Russia, being that he is a young Republican, and see what his thoughts are. So we can always plan to get him on sometime soon. Our libertarian friend Reed Coverdale wants to come on the show maybe Friday and have a conversation with you, fam, since he didn't get to catch up with you at the Rage Against the War Machine rally. There was some great bonding together. There are differences, but like I said, these are the type of libertarians that came down to the CPI communist event, so they're willing to open their eyes and listen to everything. They disagree with us, but they want to continue to have these conversations. I met some people who were entrenched pretty heavy in the Mises Caucus in Tennessee, where their number one advocates for criminal justice reform, fam. And in Tennessee, they were able to implement some things I think a lot of progressives who aren't crazy about the police department would like to see as well. So we have a lot of people in the dock ready to come for the next couple days and next couple weeks. The Convo Couch, Bradford and Mel Ballou tipped us $5 and said, much love, fam. That was on the Rockfin today. We had a decent crowd there, over 44 people. Remember, if you can, guys, you have a few extra bucks, you can go over to that Rockfin. Subscribe. We were a little bit low on the Rumble today. Had about 80 people at one time, but only 66 hanging out now. What's going on, Rumble peeps? Where you at? And we had a nice crowd, over 300 at one point today on YouTube's. Still hanging in the 226s. And fam, what else you got? Anything? When are you going to be back up on the Artizzles?
Yeah, I'll be there in a few hours, so you'll see me. Y'all.
She's got to go to work. I got to go get something to eat. That's it, fam. We'll see you soon. I am Pasta Jardula.
Purella, Convo out.
Bye, guys.